Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my comparison of the Zmf Verite and the Kennerton Wodan. Quick view of the Verite, and I just did a full review of this a couple days ago. And the Kennerton Wodan, which I did a review probably, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, and like this headphone so much that I decided I needed to keep this one around for future comparisons and references. So anyway, there is a reason I chose the Wodan, and that's mostly because of the similar price. The Zmf currently goes for anywhere from $24.99 to $26.99. Depending on what wood you choose. And the Wodan currently sells for anywhere from $26.21 to $28.55 in US dollars, also depending on which wood you get it in. I thought about comparing the Zmf to the Kennerton Wodan, the 2019 version, because they actually sound very similar. The Zmf, what I'm doing is for this comparison, I'm using the Verite pads. It comes with two different sets of pads, the Verite and the Universal, or the Universe pads. And the Verite pad, which I have on it right now, is supposed to give it a little more of a neutral sound, where the Universe pad gives it more of a warm, bassy sound. And the reason I'm using this pad is because it's already a little bit more bassy than the Wodan, so I wanted them to be more similar for the review. And the Wodan, you have a choice of two different pads with that, either the ECL01s that come with it, or you can get the ECL02s. And this actually has the ECL02s, which give it a little bit more bass, and so it actually puts these pretty close. The Zmf is still a little bit bassier, but they're pretty close with this choice of pads. So anyway, as far as the two headphones are concerned, they're both wired, they're both full size, over the ear, and they're both open back designs. The Verite uses a dynamic driver, and the Wodan uses a planar magnetic driver. The Verite is rated at 300 ohms and 97 decibels at 1 milliwatt, and the Wodan is rated at 38 ohms and 106 decibels at 1 milliwatt. The weight of them is pretty close. The Verite comes in on my kitchen scale at 517 grams, and the Wodan a slightly lighter 481 grams. Both headphones are made of real wood, not just a wood veneer, but an actual piece of wood cut and machined into, this ear cup. And both use lambskin ear pads and headband covers. The Verite comes with a 3-meter detachable cable that uses 4-pin mini XLR connections at the headphone end, and the Wodan comes with a 2-meter detachable cable that also uses 4-pin mini XLR connections at the headphone end, and the cables are interchangeable between the two different brands. The Verite comes with a very nice hard case, and the Wodan comes with a soft case. I'm not sure. I don't think this is real leather. I think it's a synthetic leather. But anyway, I wanted to give you a closer look at both headphones. This is the Verite, and this one here, this particular model is in a camphor burl type wood, and this was a $200 upgrade. So this particular headphone here sold for $26.99 and it is on loan to me by Matthew Stringer, who's been very patient with me because I've had these for about 2 months now, and I'm planning on shipping them back to him tomorrow. And I'm really going to miss this headphone, but I wanted to get this last review in before I did that. Wooden ear cups. These have a rose gold grills and stems on it. Lambskin leather ear pads. The headband's lambskin leather. They swivel this way, they swivel this way. And the 4-pin mini XLR connections on the ear cups. And then the Wodan, these are, I believe, a maple ear cup, and this one sells for $26.21 the way you see it. So this is actually by about $79, the cheaper of the two headphones. It has a self-adjusting headband, lambskin leather ear pads. I believe this is a curly maple, the ear cups here. And once again, you can see the 4-pin mini XLR connections. As far as these two headphones in my comparison, I broke this down into, I believe, 22 categories. So I'm just going to start at the top and go through each category and tell you what I think of each headphone. And first of all, I'm going to start with build quality. And in my opinion, both are exceptionally well done as far as build quality. I've reviewed several Kennertons, and I've never seen a flaw in any of them in the build quality. It's always been exceptional. This is my first Zmf that I've reviewed, but also same thing, just it seems like it's flawless as far as the build quality. Appearance, I really like the way the Wodan looks, and it looks good in photos back here. I think one thing that would have improved a little bit is this doesn't really have a shine on it. It doesn't have a shiny finish. I think if it did, I think it would improve the looks of it a little bit. I think later models did have this. This is one of the really early ones, and the Zmf does have a very shiny coat to the wood and all that, so I'm going to give a slight advantage in looks to the Zmf, but they're both very good looking headphones. I just wanted to mention that most of the Kennertons now are using this self-adjusting headband, and to tell you the truth, I actually preferred the older style headband with the knobs to adjust it. You could adjust the angle and then slide them down. It had a big aluminum knob on it, and I know they were a bit heavier and some people didn't think they were especially comfortable, but I actually preferred those and thought it looked really cool. So anyway, next would be materials, and they both use real wood, they both use real lambskin leather, so I'm going to give that one a tie between the two. Comfort, these are both very comfortable headphones. They're not what I would really call heavy. Well, 517 grams, some people would call that heavy. I've never had an issue with heavy headphones. It's never been a problem for me. What does get to me more so than weight is clamping force. If a headphone has too much clamping force, it can bother my one side of my jaw here. I think it's a TMJ thing, and a little too much pressure on that for too long can make my jaw start aching. So as far as comfort though, they're both very, very comfortable. I did mention in my full video though that the Zmf did have slightly more clamping force than I like, and my understanding is you can bend the headband a little bit and adjust the pressure, but I didn't do that because these are loaned headphones and I want to return them exactly the way they came to me. The Wodan is a little bit lighter and there's pretty much zero clamping force, and I'm going to give a slight advantage to the Wodan in comfort. Isolation, which would means how well does the headphone keep outside sounds out and how well does it keep inside sounds in. And as far as keeping outside sounds out, I'm going to give a slight advantage. Neither one does it very well. These are both open back headphones. They don't keep much of the outside sound out. but it seems like the Verite has a slight advantage and does dull the outside noise just a little bit. But then as far as keeping the sound in, I actually think the Wodan does a better job, because the sound just pretty much comes straight out from the Wodan out to the sides. And then with the Verite, it's heavily ported, and there's ports all the way around the top and all the way around the back. And it seems like the sound kind of comes out more so than from the sides, out from the top and back and front, and all that kind of spreads all over the place. So neither one, though, does a good job of keeping outside sounds out or inside sound in. They're both open back headphones. That's pretty much expected. Next is power requirements. And what I did last night, right now I have the Burson Conductor 3 reference amp in, and it has two 6.3 millimeter single-ended headphone outputs. So I plugged both headphones into the amp at the same time, and didn't matter where the volume was set, but at the same volume setting, the Wodan was playing about 4 times as loud as the Verite was. So the Wodan is quite a bit more efficient and easier to drive than the Verite is, which is unusual because the Wodan is a planar magnetic design, which are usually harder to drive, and the Zmf is a dynamic driver, which are usually easier to drive. But I think what it comes down to is the Zmf is a 300 ohm headphone and the Wodan is a 38 ohms. So, and one's rated at, the Zmf is rated at 97 decibels at 1 milliwatt, and the Wodan at 106. So those numbers pretty much explain why the Wodan seems to take a lot less power to drive than the Verite does. The tone balance, we're starting to get into sound now, and I would describe the tone balance of the Wodan with the stock ear pads, I would say dead on neutral. With the ECL02 ear pads, which I have on it, I would say it has just a slight emphasis to the bass, maybe about 3 decibels. The tone balance of the Verite, I would say it's a little on the warm and bassy side of neutral, even with the Verite pads, which give it less bass than the Universe pads. It still has a pretty good emphasis on the bass. I would say maybe 5 or 6 decibels. It is I would say, like I said, not neutral. It's got a little bit of emphasis to the bass and a slight dip in the upper mid-range. Not really V-shaped, but like I said, not really neutral. It does have kind of a warm sound to it. Bass extension. Both headphones actually have good bass extension. The Wodan does a real good job of going low, but it's not an emphasized lower bass, where the Zmf, the Verite has a little more weight to the sub bass than the Wodan does. The mid bass, I would say the same thing. The Wodan has good mid bass. It's punchy, it's clean, it's very tight. The Verite has a little bit more weight and a little bit more punch to the mid bass, but it's not quite as tight as the bass from the Wodan. I wouldn't say it's boomy or muddy or anything like that, but the bass from the Wodan is less emphasized, but it's rock solid, where, you know, it's very, very tight, where the Wodan or the Verite has a little more weight to the bass, but not quite the tightness that the Wodan has. The mid-range, well, I'll start with the Verite. The Verite, the mid-range is just the slightest bit set back from what I'm hearing. It's not real forward and in your face. It's just slightly set back, but it's warm, it's very rich, it's very creamy. Never ever harsh. The mid-range on the Wodan is a little more forward. It's kind of in your face, but it is exceptionally clean and clear and detailed. In fact, probably the cleanest, clearest, most detailed mid-range of any headphone I have heard to this day. Getting into the treble, I would say neither headphone really rolls off in the treble, and they both have good sparkle in cymbals and bells, that sort of thing. But the treble on the Verite seems to kind of peak at one spot. Like it's a little lower in the low treble, then kind of peaks in the mid treble, and then kind of rolls off in the higher treble, where the Wodan, the entire treble seems to just be kind of flat in the same level. So you hear more different instruments stand out in the Wodan's treble than you do the Verite. The Verite, if a sound is right in where it peaks, you hear it loud and clear, but if it doesn't hit in that peak, it's a little bit rolled off compared to where the Wodan, the entire treble seems to be a little bit slightly stronger. Getting into detail and resolution. The Verite is very good. It is doesn't lack anything in detail or resolution, but it's not the absolute last word. There are a few headphones out there that have a little more detail, a little more clarity, especially in the mid-range, and I think it's because the Verite, the mid-range, seems just slightly distant, so maybe the detail's there, but it's not jumping out the way it does on the Wodan. The Wodan, on the other hand, the mid-range, especially the detail, resolution, clarity, is absolutely exceptional. I mean, like I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, it's up there as good or better than any other headphone I've heard. It is just absolutely the cleanest mid-range that I've heard so far. The Verite isn't far behind, but it isn't quite on the same level as far as clarity and detail in the mid-range as the Wodan is. Getting into imaging, the Verite images very well. You can pinpoint where every instrument is coming from. Each instrument has its own location, and the separation between instruments is very good. The instruments don't blur together. You can hear each distinctly. Okay, the Wodan is even better. The Wodan has exceptional pinpoint imaging, where the Verite is just slightly more vague. Where the Wodan, you'll hear like a bell or a chime or something come from one pinpoint location, where the Verite, you're hearing it from a little bit wider area. It's just not quite as sharply defined as the Wodan. Getting into soundstage, these two headphones are quite a bit different there, okay? And the Verite has an unusual soundstage, and I'll try to describe it the best I can. I'll start with the Wodan. Okay, the Wodan has a very wide soundstage, one of the widest I've ever heard. It's up there with the Hi-Fi Man Aria and with the Urzatish Phobos, a really, really wide soundstage. It also has good height and it has good depth. But the depth of the Wodan soundstage is basically from my ears forward. It doesn't go a huge long way in front. The Kennerton Roar gives me the most out front soundstage that I've heard from any headphone. The Wodan doesn't go quite that far, but the soundstage goes from my ears forward, out in front. Okay, the Verite, the soundstage it took me a while to figure out what it was doing because it just sounded different. At first I thought it was narrow. It sounded narrow and kind of claustrophobic. But that wasn't really the case. What it is vocals are very centered, okay? Especially female vocals. If I'm listening to the Verite, the female vocals are centered right in the middle. They're right here. They're right in front of my face. They're right here in the middle. Where the Wodan, that same vocal is wider and kind of wraps around my head. So it gave me the impression that the Verite had a narrow soundstage, but yet the instruments that I'm hearing are out there pretty far on the Verite. It actually has pretty decent width, not as wide as the Wodan, but the instruments are out a decent distance and it has decent width. It's just that for some reason the vocals, and especially females, are focused right in the center and don't have that wider wraparound sound like they do from the Wodan. Okay, both headphones have pretty good height. I can hear sounds coming from up over my head with both headphones. What makes the Verite very unique, and please excuse me just a second here. I guess that'd be a good place for a break, but anyway, oh, and I also wanted to mention, I've got the fan running behind me. I hope that doesn't make too much noise, but it's, I don't have air conditioning in my office, and it's like 82 degrees in here, and I gotta have some air movement, or I'm gonna sit here and sweat all the way through my video. So anyway, getting back to the sound stage of the Verite. Okay, the part that is very unusual is it has good depth, but it's not from my ears forward. It's from like, well, it is. It's from like the front of my face backwards. And the Verite is the first headphone that I've heard that I swear I hear things coming from behind me. I feel like the music is coming from all the way around my head. I hear music coming from my forehead, from my ears, from behind my head. The sound just kind of wraps around my whole head. And it took me a little while to figure that out and get used to it, but now that I have, I really do like it. It's really enjoyable. I just feel like I'm surrounded by music. So I don't know why it does that. I don't know how it puts the music behind my head, where I haven't seen any other headphone do that. As far as dynamics, neither headphone is exceptionally dynamic, but they both are decent. I would say the Verite has a little more punch and a little more slam in the bass than the Wodan does, and I would say the Wodan has a little more punch in the mid-range than the Verite does. So like I said, they have decent dynamics. Neither one is exceptional, but you know, an extremely dynamic headphone can get fatiguing after a while, and these are both headphones I can listen to for a long time. And I wanted to mention female vocals. I tend to listen to a lot of acoustical music and a lot of female vocals. I think acoustical instruments that have a natural sound are the best way for me to judge a headphone, more so than like electronic sounds or artificial sounds. You know, I love the sound of, you know, like an acoustic guitar, you know, a piano or whatever, that, you know, it's a natural sound that I know what it's supposed to sound like. But anyway, female vocals are a real test on a headphone, because making a female vocal sound right, making it sound natural, making it sound clean, hearing the little details and nuances, hearing the textures in her voice, it takes a good headphone to reproduce that, and that's what separates, you know, the mid-fi headphones from the high-end headphones. Okay, these two headphones both do a very good job with female vocals, but in a slightly different way. The Wodan handles female vocals by being exceptionally clean and clear, where I can hear every little nuance, every, you know, the texture in the voice, and just every detail is there. And it's so clean that it does sound real. It sounds like I'm right there, like I'm there with a real person singing in front of me. The Verite doesn't have quite that crystal clean clarity and detail, but it has a warmer, more liquid, once again, natural, just makes voices sound so sweet and just so enjoyable to listen to. So both of these, they sound a little bit different from each other, but they both do a very good job of handling female vocals, and I like both of them a lot. Openness, which is, do I feel like I'm in a stadium listening to music, or do I feel like I'm in, a little bar with, walls close to me and all that? And the Odin is definitely, or not the Odin, the Wodan. The Wodan definitely has a more open sound, where I can feel like, almost like I'm outdoors at times, where there are no limits, there are no walls, where the Verite sounds more like, I'm in a small venue listening, little jazz club or something like that. The music's in a little tighter and, but both enjoyable, just a little bit different sound to them. Listening fatigue. Listening fatigue is, well, it's kind of self-explanatory. Does listening to this headphone wear you out? Does it wear out your ears? Okay, and the things that will wear out my ears the quickest are harshness and, just anything that doesn't sound natural. And these headphones are both very good at not doing that. Okay, the Wodan is very detailed, and if a recording is done very well, I never find it fatiguing because it's so clean. A well recorded CD or whatever it doesn't wear me out because it's clean. There's no distortion there. But if it's a less than perfect recording, I'm going to hear the imperfections with the Wodan, and that can become fatiguing. Okay, the Verite, it doesn't reveal every little flaw in the recording the way the Wodan does, and because of that, it is a warmer sound. The mid-range is a little bit softer, little less punchy, and actually, I would say, the Verite is I never find the Verite fatiguing. Where the Wodan, as long as the recordings are really good, I don't find it fatiguing, but with a poor recording, it reveals that and it can get fatiguing. In similar category is forgiveness, which the two kind of overlap. And forgiveness, what I'm talking about is, can I listen to less than perfect recordings? And the Wodan, I would say, probably not. It's okay with mediocre recordings, but a bad recording, the Wodan is going to point out every flaw, and you're going to find some things you just can't listen to with it because, like I said, it's like putting a microscope on every little flaw in the recording. It is so clean and clear, you're going to hear every detail of that recording. The Verite isn't quite as sharply focused, so you're not going to hear every little flaw. You will. If the recording's bad, you're going to hear it with the Verite, but because it's a little warmer, a little bassier, it is a little more forgiving of less than perfect recordings. As far as these headphones, do they lean towards the analytical side or do they lean towards the musical side? And I don't consider either bad. Analytical, a lot of people use that as a bad word. That if a headphone is analytical, it's going to be fatiguing, it's going to be, harsh, it's going to be annoying. And I don't want to say something's analytical in a bad way, because if it's crystal clean and you're listening to a good recording, you can't beat analytical. I love that, but like I said, if you have a less than perfect, a less you know, a recording that's not done very well, analytical, isn't ideal. So anyway, of the two, I would say the Wodan leans more towards the analytical side. You're going to hear every last detail on the recording. The Verite, I would say leans a little towards the musical side, where it just makes everything sound smooth and liquid, and you know, a lot of people use the word musicality. I'm not crazy about that word. I don't really think it means a whole lot, but you know, some people use it to describe things that, you know, aren't really. It's used a lot in equipment that doesn't measure well. People will say, well, it doesn't measure well, but it has good musicality. And, you know, I do get that though, because, you know, like harmonic distortions and things can actually make something sound more real and more natural to the human ear. So, you know, I don't think we can trust measurements 100% of the time. I think we have to go towards our ears. And my guess would be that the Wodan would probably measure more accurately, but the Verite just has that natural kind of, you know, like I said, musical sound. It just sounds good. It sounds right. So I'll move on to the next category. And in fact, it's my last category. I'm almost done here. And that would be, what music types would I recommend for these two headphones? Or what music type do you listen to? Which headphone would be best for you? So first I want to say both of these headphones will work very well with pretty much any kind of music. But if I were going to recommend one of these headphones for you, I would say that if you listen to rock, pop, electronic dance music, that sort of thing, any bass heavy music, you will probably like the Verite better. Okay, if you listen to acoustical, jazz, orchestral music, I would say the Wodan is probably a better choice for you. But like I said, both of these headphones do very well with all music. If you're looking for a neutral, very accurate headphone, the Wodan is probably the headphone for you. If you are a bass head, neither of these headphones is for bass heads, but the Verite does have a warmer bassier sound, and if you are a bass head, the Verite is going to make you more happy than the Wodan does. So, like I said, you know, they both can handle all music, but I think that rock, pop, electronic, you'd probably be, if those are your primary music that you listen to, you're probably going to be more happy with the Verite, where acoustic, jazz, and orchestral, you'll probably be more happy with the Wodan. So, comes down to, which of these do I recommend? Well, I really like both of these headphones. The Wodan I reviewed like a year and a half ago, and it is one of my favorite headphones that I've ever heard. I really, really like this headphone. The Verite I've had for 2 months, and actually needs to go back tomorrow, has become one of my new favorites. I really like that headphone too. They're quite a bit different in sound, but both of them, I listen to them, and whatever I'm listening to, I'm pretty much thinking this is it. This is as good as this is ever going to sound. I mean, I never feel like I'm coming up short with either of these headphones. They're great, both great headphones in my opinion. It just depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for detail, resolution, a little more of an analytical sound, then I would say, where you're going to hear everything on the recording, I would say go for the Wodan. If you're looking for a little warmer, bassier sound, a little more mellow, a little less in your face, the Verite. But I don't think you could go wrong either way with these. And I realize every headphone out there, there's going to be people that love it and there's going to be people that hate it. So I can't guarantee that you're going to love either one of these headphones. But I think if you know, you choose the right headphone for the right type of music, I think you're going to be pretty happy. And I realize neither one of these are cheap headphones. I mean, we're talking $2,500 to $2,800 here. That's a lot of money. But the way I see it is, you know, this is a long-term investment. This is something you're going to use for years. And, you know, if you can sit down in your house and listen to music on, you know, just such a high level, and if that's, you know, if that's what entertains you, then, you know, you break it down over the years, you know, how much it costs you, you know, each time you listen to it or whatever. It's a lot cheaper than going out for any kind of entertainment. So, you know, I think that it's actually a good investment if it's something you're going to use. If it's something you're going to sit down and use for a couple hours every night, or if you sit down and listen to music to relax and unwind after work, and, you know, so you can actually get some sleep when you go to bed, I think it's a great investment. To me, music is my drug, you know. That's my way of relaxing. It's I can alter the way I feel, my mood, everything with music. And to me, you know, I mean, you know, a headphone that is going to last for years, it's, and can put me in a better state of mind. It's a great investment. So anyway, I've made this video way too long. I need to wrap this up. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please join us over at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. We're pushing 11,400 members. We've had exceptional growth in the last month or so. I think we've added about 1,500 members in the last 2 months. So like to see you all over there. A lot of good people, a lot of good information. And once again, thanks for watching my video.